here, the Great Britain side coming out, walking onto the paddock. That's young Gary Schofield. Neil Holding, the halfback. And there are the two players to watch, Chris Burton and Andy Goodway. Mick Adams, the back row, and Brian Noble, the skipper, coming out last. Brian Noble, the youngest ever skipper of a Great Britain touring side. He's only 23, the Bradford Northern hooker, and he assumed the captaincy of the touring side when the original selection, Trevor Skerritt, withdrew because of injury. Gary Jack is the first of the Australian players out, followed by Eric Wraith. They're coming out in program number order. Meninga, Bowstead, Steve Mortimer, the replacement halfback, is there. Wayne Pearce and Ray Price there playing his last test match, and the last man, the Queensland skipper of the side. Now we'll hear God Save the Queen for the Great Britain side. So, getting ready for the start of the third and final test match of this series. Australia already having clinched the Ashes, and Great Britain all out to at least win one match in this series before departing for New Zealand. The Great Britain side, a young team, have come here and they've proved to be excellent ambassadors for the game of rugby league. Probably one of the best behaved touring sides we've ever had in Australia. There have been a couple of changes in the Australian side. Noticeably, number 7, Steve Mortimer, is in at halfback, replacing the Queenslander Mark Murray. And in the forwards, Ray Price returns, Wally Fullerton-Smith into the second row, and Brian Niebling into the front row with the injury to Paul Vorton. The Great Britain side lining out, and they also have a number of changes. Importantly for them, though, there are no changes in the back line for Great Britain, and that's good news. But in the forwards, Mick Adams goes back into lock forward with Mick Worrell out. Goodway and Burton remain in the second row, and we've got two new prop forwards. We've got Hobbs and Case replacing Keith Rain and Lee Crooks, who played in the second test. And Tony Drake from Christchurch, in charge of his first senior international, not really showing any great sign of nerves out there. But let's hope he can keep a good control of this match. The third test underway with a kick-off by Mal Meninga and a long one that goes deep for Great Britain. And so Great Britain in possession inside their own quarter. And the first penalty of the match given from the first play of the ball. And Tony Drake seeing an incident in the tackle involving the use of a knee, and the Australians have been penalised. Gary Cook.
Yes, it's a knee, and I'm not sure who was penalised here, but Ray Price, presumably he was the player marking. Just let's keep a close look at it, and ever so slight nudge, but he's obviously keen to get his authority on the game early.
So Great Britain going into attack, and they've got the ball just inside their own half, and Brian Noble is going to restart play. Holding. Run up strongly by Case. Nice little dash from dummy half by the Great Britain skipper. He's about 8 metres inside his own territory. Holding as the dummy half. Going to the blind side. And Tony Myler putting it to ground. In the first two tests, Australia have won both rather convincingly, although the matches for most of the time were a lot closer than that. Australia just running away over the last 20 minutes of each game. Adams, grub a kick for the line, and Boustead in good position to keep that in play. Kerry Boustead, who is the most experienced member of this Australian side, and he's only 24 years of age. Penalty against Great Britain. 5 metres, please, says referee Tony Drake. That penalty 10 metres inside the Great Britain half. And I suppose if Ross Conlon was in this team today, he'd probably call for a shot at goal, but it's probably a little bit too far out for Mal Meninga the way he's been kicking this year. The Australian skipper, Wally Lewis. Well, Mike Stevenson, you've worn the red, white and blue jersey of Great Britain in an international, but can you ever remember such a tame start to an international as this?
No, it's very tame indeed, and but I think it might fire up in the next 5 minutes.
Canescu dummy half, that's Mortimer, and a switch in play to Lewis. Gary Jack was in, but the ball went wide to Boustead, and that's been ruled as being knocked backwards. Wayne Pearce up the blindside touchline and into touch, putting his foot just over the touchline. It was a cheeky little run by Pearce. He didn't have much room there, but he gambled on it and it failed. Steve Mortimer standing around the wrong side of the scrum. I think he expected the feed on the open side. It's a loose head to Great Britain, and that's the trouble in getting the scrum down. Brian Niebling not packing correctly on this open side. Niebling, a specialist second rower. I think he was trying to take the head himself, but it's on the other side of the scrum that matters. And Great Britain have won it with the head. Hanley is in centre field. Good player, Ellery Hanley, too. Nice little run from the dummy half by Holding. Hanley. Boustead's got him covered. And he's in a touch. He's got his foot in a touch. Hanley's not happy about that. And there might well have been cause for a penalty there because the tackle had been affected. But it looks as though Hanley's just put his foot out over the touchline. The Australians onto the attack. Meninga's long pass out to Miles. A bad attempted tackle and away goes Growth. Look at the power of this man. And well contained by Keith Mumby getting across. That's Meninga. Adams going high and assisted by Chris Burton. Canescu. Lewis. Mortimer. That's Niebling, and a good hit there by the second rower Andy Goodway. Wally Fullerton-Smith to Canescu. Mortimer. Lewis. Little kick and put to ground. Will get a penalty. It didn't look all that serious, but there's no doubt that Lewis was put to the ground, in fact, after he had kicked through.
Yes, the little kick from Lewis, and he certainly couldn't have been injured by it, but he was impeded, and the penalty rightly given for the incident.
So it's an opportunity for a kick at goal here, and it's going to be Mal Meninga to kick for goal. He's on the quarter line and not far off centre field, and this one's well within his reach. And he's pushed it offline. Well, not a good start. I'm sure Meninga was hoping for a better start than that to his kicking for the day, because he should have got that one. Great Britain restart through halfback Neil Holding, and the dropout goes to halfway, and there is a penalty to Australia in front. The Great Britain players over the quarter line before the kick. It's a cardinal sin, a very technical breach, but referee Drake was right on it. Here it is.
Well, the rule's specific that all players of the kicking side must remain behind that line until the kick is taken.
So, first points in the match. Not there again, because Meninga once more has kicked it out to the left. And I don't know, but I think Wally Lewis might be taking those short attempts later on. took 4 tacklers there to put Eric Roth to ground. Dowling come from obscurity to cement his place in this Australian pack. Mortimer, and a switch in play with that long pass of his to Pearce. Niebling, a little dummy. Ball's gone loose. The Australians recover. It'll be a scrum for the knock-on, and that's about 35 metres out from the Great Britain line. There's been no score in the game, and we've had about 14 minutes of play. The Australians have had the territorial advantage, but there have been no really clean breaks made yet. Holding makes one around the scrum base. To Adams. Goodway. He's been one of Great Britain's best on this tour. One of the forwards who hasn't let his team down. Adams getting a pass to Hanley. Away goes the winger. Good backing up, the ball loose, and Australia's got it. Ray Price will play it. Dowling. Canescu. And a penalty in front again. Great Britain conceding these penalties in a dangerous position, and it's just good fortune for them that Meninga has been off target, and I think now Wally Lewis is going to call on Meninga again. The Sydney crowd doesn't like this. Well, he's sneaked that one inside, and that gives Australia the first points. First goal from 3 attempts to Mal Meninga. But I really don't feel that that was struck with a great deal of confidence, though.
Well, here you see Meninga. It's amazing how he can kick anywhere with it. Look at the size of those thighs. And you'd think you'd get more power with such sizable thighs, but just sneaks this one over. Here we see just scraping through.
Jack making a good break. Good pass to Meninga. Showing the power and speed now. Standing in the tackle to pick up Price. He was very, very close to getting that ball away to Pearce. Meninga, Mortimer. That's Dowling. Lewis outside. Good pass to Miles. Good tackle too. Nice tackle by Mumby. Dowling dummy half. Lewis. The Australians applying the pressure now. Dowling. That was Chris Burton going high to stop him. Lewis to the blind side. Little chip kick. Look at Bowstead on the far wing. And knocked in a touch by Great Britain. Touch judges come in. Well, that's got to be an Australian loose head with Lewis just putting over the little chip kick. Bowstead flew down the wing. He realised that it was going to be taken by Hanley. Now, it's actually Hanley who just virtually throws it over the touchline.
Brian Case is being spoken to on the touch judge's report from the far side.
Penalty to Australia from the touch judge's report. We didn't notice anything behind play, maybe you did, but it's a penalty to Australia. And the way that Meninga's been kicking, Lewis is going to keep the pressure up. Might be a chance of 6 points here, he thinks. Meninga well handled. Mick Adams, number 13, the defender. Fullerton Smith. Out to Miles. Overlap here for the Australians. Price to Bowstead. Dowling, the decoy, misses Canescu. Mortimer. Lewis. Inside to Pearce. Mortimer. Long one. Chance of an intercept, but an overlap, and Dowling got a pass back. Miles. Those long passes by Australia creating trouble out on the far wing. Brian Niebling throwing it back. Fullerton Smith getting there. Sloppy play by the Australians. Mortimer tries the bomb. It's a high one. Burke coming across. Drummond under it. Australia's got it through Pearce. Can he free it away? Yes, he can. Out to Graith for the corner. Burke across. The pass had gone forward. Eric Graith isn't renowned as the best handler in the game, but he did very well to bring that one in, but all to no avail.
Well, Pearce realising that it was the last tackle, he had to get rid of the ball and floated well forward to Eric Graith out in the left wing.
Great Britain have got the scrum from their own feed. Drummond. Adams pushing his way into dummy half. David Hobbs will play it. Back to his skipper, Brian Noble. Adams. Good waste pass finds Myler. Steps inside Lewis. Myler up the middle. Showing a better step today. Myler's made a good clean break over halfway. Beautifully tackled though by Price. Great Britain for the first time on the attack in Australia's half. This is Hanley. Hanley's through. Hanley's going for the line. Hanley will be able to score. Ellery Hanley's done it himself. His 8th try of the tour. Great Britain scored the first try and it came from this individual run from Ellery Hanley, and here it is.
Well, this is a break that they've been wanting. They really wanted this, Great Britain, and he took a great run by Tony Myler. Then we saw Ellery Hanley. Watch the strength of this boy. Here we see him just pushing away, realising he can go in for the try, not even bothering to look, and a good Great Britain try.
And Great Britain with a good lead now. 16 minutes before half-time. Great Britain leading Australia 6 points to 2. That's Burke. Miles, the tackler. Schofield. Adams. Noble. No one with him. Adams. Schofield ducking around him to get the return pass. Holding, just getting the ball away. Great Britain lost it, but it went backwards, and Burton powering his way towards the defence. Gary Jack holds him up. One to go for Great Britain, right in front of the Australian posts. That's Myler dummying the kick and trying to step through. Got a pass behind the defence. Schofield's got it, but it was knocked on.
It was this pass from Myler to Schofield, and it certainly looked as though it went okay, and he didn't knock it on, I don't think, and certainly wasn't a forward pass, but that's what's been ruled.
Yeah, I think he was ruling the pass was forward. That's a good scrum win to Great Britain, and Burke has been slammed to the ground by Meninga. A win against the head to Great Britain. Adams running into dummy half. Great Britain putting the pressure back on Australia. That's Hanley. Nice tackle by Lewis, but Hanley got out of it. Got away from Bosted, got away from Conescu, got away from Dowling. And halfback Steve Mortimer puts him down. Good break by Ellery Hanley, the try scorer. That's Adams. Possesses good ball skills, this fellow. Will play it to Noble, his skipper. Holding, drop goal attempt right in front. And a one-pointer. Great Britain 7, Australia 2.
Good thinking by the Great Britain squad. Instead of surrendering the ball on the 6th tackle, they set themselves up here nice and steady. And a lot of the Australians have been attracted into it, and cool and calm and collected.
Hanley with a about 6.5 minutes to go before the break, bringing him back to his own quarter line for Great Britain. And with the tourists to go in leading at half-time, as it appears likely, it's going to be something of a surprise. That's Holding. Tackler was Kinescu, and away goes Myler, holding the ball one-handed. Ryan Noble. Burke. Clearing kick by the fullback, goes towards the touchline. Gary Jack getting up there and can't keep it in play. Another good kick by fullback Mick Burke, taking Australia back inside their own half.
And the interesting thing there is that Gary Jack has been ruled to have made that ball dead, and that will give Great Britain the feed here in an attacking position.
A hand down in the scrum there against Great Britain. Great Britain really didn't need to infringe in the scrum. I suppose any advantage you get in the scrum can help you win the ball, but they had the loose head and the feed. Instead, they've conceded the penalty to the Australians. This Australian side is going to be very, very anxious now to try and get some points on the board before half-time. Lewis. Up the middle goes Niebling, and a good high tackle, but it was around the shoulders. Pearce. Ray Price. Price playing as though it's his first test, not his last. Mortimer. That's Lewis. Well, this is where Lewis has to assert himself now. Mortimer, and a penalty to Australia. Players penalised were front rower David Hobbs, centre Keith Mumby out wide. Disappointing thing for the Great Britain team is that while they've given away a lot of penalties, look where they've given them, right in front of their own posts. Three minutes before the break, Meninga's attempt at goal is successful. 2 out of 4 to the Queensland centre. Australia come a bit closer. 7-4 the score.
Australia kicked by number 4, Mal Meninga.
Well, Great Britain really just have to keep the Australians at bay for the last 3 minutes before half-time. It really will be a boost for them to go in at the break, leading 7-4.
Fullerton Smith is 20 metres inside his own territory. Kinescu, Mortimer. Little chip kick through. Will he get the bounce? He does. Good backing up too. Ryan Niebling is just over halfway. That's the sort of variety in the Australians' play that could upset this British defence, which has been well drilled for this game. Long one to the centres to Pearce and Meninga and Graith. Cover across. Lovely tackle, Schofield. Reminiscent of one he made on the big fellow in Brisbane. Miles. Lewis pass finds Dowling running wide. Lewis. Away goes Kinescu up to the quarter line. Long one to the wing. It's Meninga there. On towards Graith. Schofield across. He's over! Incredible try. Great Britain players are protesting. They say that Graith went into touch. The touch judge doesn't agree. A try has been ruled, and it's that remarkable winger, Eric Graith, who's done it again.
Well, we see here, nice neat little pass from Lewis. Kinescu, the hooker. Good long ball here. Floating, missing man out. Meninga drawing in. Beautiful. That's how a centre should draw. And out to the wingman. And look at the strength. This is what makes him the best in the world.
And I'll tell you something from that replay. He didn't go into touch. That's a fair try.
Yes, there's no doubt that he wasn't even close, even though he was within 2 or 3 feet of that touchline all the way down. I would say he went no closer than 6 inches at any time from touching the touchline.
There was one particular step in that run, Gary, where his foot might well have been above the touchline. And there goes the hopes of Great Britain of leading at half-time. Meninga's kick, the most difficult on the ground, and he gets nowhere near the posts. Here's that try, and notice the length of this long pass, with Lewis getting it out wider. Dowling finding Lewis, and it's this very good pass by hooker Canescu. He showed good sense here, and watch where Drummond is. Drummond is nowhere near his winger. He was marking Meninga and left Graith unmarked, and it was up to Schofield to attempt a repeat of that tackle, and Graith does not go into touch. And the half-time siren has sounded, and the players leaving the field at half-time by 8 points to 7.
Scrum's narrowly in favour of Great Britain at half-time, and they've also taken the only tight head, while the penalty's well in favour of Australia, 8-4, and in the errors, Australia's missed 14 tackles to Great Britain's 11.
Second half underway. Tony Drake of Christchurch, the referee, putting it down to Fullerton Smith, who knocks on for Australia, put the first scrum of the match down, and I'm afraid that has been very, very much the story of the first half in this game. So what does Great Britain need to do to win this match?
Well, they've really got to tighten up their defence around the rucks, same as Australia, really. They're going far too high instead of going low. And they've got to try to work in Tony Myler a little bit more. They've got to get the runners out wide and breach that very, very good defence of the Australian side.
The Australian team get a penalty, and that went unnoticed by Frank Stanton. He's more concerned with the weather, I think. Australia get a scrum penalty and a found touch inside their own half. Back to Mortimer. Lewis is standing close, and there he's got the ball. Meninga. Tackler was Adams, but he really only grabbed him by the jersey until support arrived. Back to Miles. Niebling. Mortimer. That's Dowling getting a good hit from Chris Burton. Tackle was finished by two of the other Great Britain players, but two front rowers. This is Fullerton Smith. Lewis getting a good ball out to Bowstead. Into touch. Scrum to go down. Well, a lot of errors in the first half, and therefore not so much tackling. We saw more scrums than anything else, and Andy Goodway, the second rower, with Chris Burton heading the tackle count for the British team. Australia's leading tackler, Wally Fullerton Smith. That's the reason he's in the team, one of the best defenders in the country. Good support from Pearce and Niebling. Hanley, caught by Price. Holding switches play back to Myler, out to Burke. Bowstead low, good tackle. That's right on halfway. Myler. This is Hobbs. Ball came loose. Australia ended up with it through Ray Price. So we're going to have a scrum go down. Scrum moving right around. Back on the original mark, please, fellows. Mortimer scrum feed. Australian ball. Mortimer to the open side. Running away from Adams, who broke quickly from the scrum bases that screwed around. So Australia standing very deep now as they go on the attack. Gary Jack, fullback, is at dummy half. One of the things I think the Australian attack has been missing so far in the game is the insertion of Jack from fullback into the back line. Canescu, Lewis. Long one out to Meninga. On to Graith. Caught by Drummond that time. He didn't let go of him on that occasion. On to Mortimer. Burke. Fullerton Smith putting him down. He's 15 metres short of halfway. Adams. That's the prop forward case. Holding picks up support and it's gone with a loose pass out towards Hanley. Lewis gets in by one leg. Good way, nice tackle. Wayne Pearce is opposite number. Adams. Hobbs. Not a bad kicker of the ball, this fellow. Bowstead. Bowstead. And the Australians up to halfway now. Long one out to Jack in the centres. Frank Myler, the Great Britain coach, very, very anxious to pull off a victory in this game. He hasn't done a bad job with this team on this tour. Lewis got it back. That's Dowling away. Wayne Pearce onto his winger Bowstead. Pearce, Mortimer, Lewis. Inside, it's gone to Canescu, the hooker. Dowling. Better understanding amongst these Australian forwards now. They lack cohesion in the first half. They're playing a lot better. One to go. Lewis with the ball. A kick for the winger. Running out wide is great. Can he field it? Into touch. It was a neat little kick that, putting it across field. And Mal Meninga was out of the play as Graith realised that there was a chance of getting it, but he was beaten to it by the youthful Gary Schofield. Graith has been deemed as being the player who forced that into touch, and the scrum penalty goes to Australia. No sense in looking for touch. Take a quick tap, they say. Ray Price, I think, would dearly love to score a try in his last test, and he's going to try. He's not far away from it either. Playing it forward, he can't get through. It's a goal line dropout. Great Britain forcing the ball in goal.
Yes, well, good thinking by Price here. Just out of his reach.
Australians have a chance to keep the pressure up because they get the ball back from the dropout. Bowstead. Nice weaving run. Bowstead. Good support. The ball's come loose to Great Britain. Out to Holding. Caught by Canescu and Dowling. On his own quarter line. Great Britain in possession. 6 to go. Adams. Noble. Hobbs. Brian Noble darting away from dummy half. He does it well. He times his runs. He doesn't do it often, but invariably gains good ground when he does. Adams. Hanley. Would have been close to a voluntary tackle there. Good touch on the full. Not a good kick by Goodway. Eight minutes gone in the second half, and Australia leading by the half-time score of 8-7. Mortimer finds Gary Jack as Wally Lewis was well marked, and it's gone to Meninga, who puts it down. It went backwards. Meninga was lucky to get there before the Great Britain defence. This is Miles, held up by Burton. Mortimer calling for the ball. Meninga has it. Mortimer back to the blind side, and another misunderstanding. It's Canescu. I beg your pardon, Niebling, the front row forward. Dowling. Pearce has it, and a good tackle by Burton. The ball's loose, towed downfield by Holding. Gary Jack will get there first. Good stepping player, Gary Jack. Dowling. David Hobbs made that tackle felt too. Meninga. Lewis. Meninga. Australians are standing flat-footed, throwing the ball from one to the other. No creativity at all in their attack. Mortimer. Let's see if they can put something on now. Pearce out with the backs. The ground's fairly slippery as a result of the rain we've had. That's Lewis. Beautiful handling now by Australia. Boasted infield. Meninga. Beautiful stuff now. Keith Mumby's got it. There's some superb handling there by the Australians. Deserved better perhaps, but Great Britain fortunate they got the ball. Noble, Adams, Myler, Burke, fullback, up towards halfway. Schofield inside, the ball's intercepted, and Australia have got it. Well, Mortimer backed his judgment. They're going for the intercept. It disrupted the Great Britain attack when they were looking dangerous.
The errors have still kept coming. Australia's had 7 handling errors in this half, and it's only been going 11 minutes.
Thanks, Gary. Fullerton Smith. Canescu, Price, and away to Pearce. That worked well. Price, Mortimer, Lewis. Well, this is the testing time for Great Britain. Will it be a repeat of the earlier test? Australia into the second half now, looking for those points that will win them the match. Ray Price, dummy half. Mortimer. That's Miles. 1 to go. Canescu to dummy half. He darts away himself. Canescu's over. He scored. A try to Greg Canescu. And that Great Britain defence was very, very lax. They should have been alert to that. Canescu ran into dummy half. He knew what was on and he just sprinted away from dummy half.
Yes, good play by the hooker. He's having a very strong game, Canescu. Saw the opening, and once again we find the Great Britain squad going too high and forcing his way over for the try.
Meninga could well wish for a better day with the boot. 2 out of 5 so far. And really only one of the kicks he's had could be deemed difficult. That was from the touchline for the attempted conversion of Grove's try, but all his other kicks have been from a relatively easy position. He's only kicked 2 out of 5. That's a better kick from Meninga. I think he likes the southern end of the ground a little bit better. Converts the try that was scored in this fashion from hooker Greg Canescu, darting away from the dummy half. The defence followed him across, but there was no real determined effort to prevent him going across the line. Away from Mumby. Hobbs the tackler. Mortimer. Price. Chris Burton taking his time and getting off him. Downing had another strong game, this fellow. Up the middle to Konescu, and Niebling got it back. Away go Australia through Gene Miles. That's Pearce. Pearce running around the defence on to Boustead. Gary Jack in trouble. Sold a dump there as Mick Adams was right on top of him. Mortimer could hear the wind expel from the bodies as they met. And nice defence from Konescu. Fullback Mick Burke. Adams. Brian Case is 15 metres out. Naval got Hanley going with him. Hanley. Holding. Adams. Burton. Plenty of shouting going on out there. Boustead. Didn't have the happiest of matches in Brisbane, Kerry Boustead, but he's done nothing wrong today. Right back to his best form. Price. Mortimer. Price. On the burst is Dowling. Bumping away from Burton. Again, that forward going too high. Trying to stop the progress of the ball carrier with the shoulder rather than going low around the legs. Gene Miles, Australia getting their attack moving now. There's been more fluency in their attack. Better positioning, better passing. Mortimer. Here's Jack. Dowling. Allowed to run, putting Australia on the move again. Pearce. Another good tackle from Keith Mumby, who's been one of Britain's best defenders on this tour. Niebling. Pearce. On to Boustead. One to go. Lewis. Kick and chase. Gets there first and just couldn't control it. And a knock on to Australia, but it was very nearly a try to the Australian skipper. Just couldn't quite control that ball in the air. The touch judge is in from both sides, and we'll have a look at this kick.
Yes, beautiful kick by Lewis. We haven't seen much of him today. So when the pressure's on, just couldn't get to it.
Well, on the touch judge's report, we've got Wally Lewis being called out with Chris Burton. Australians getting ready, I think, to send on a replacement. Ryan Noble say, no, I can't get down. Won the scrum though. Good way. Dave Brown getting ready to come on, the Australian replacement forward. He was given a few words of instruction from the Australian coach, Frank Stanton. This is good way. Away goes Noble. And again a valuable run. He picked up about 15 metres there. The Australians are standing back waiting for him to come to them. Holding. Myler. Hanley. Bad handling. So the Australians make their first change. Dave Brown is coming onto the field. And who's going to be the player off? It could well be Niebling. No, it's Fullett and Smith off. Niebling to the second row and Dave Brown will come in as prop. Meninga. Out now to Boustead, down the touchline, inside to Lewis. And another series of knock-ons. to force another scrum. One of the well-known faces in the crowd is the current Queensland coach, and last year's Australian coach, Arthur Beetson. Listening to a bit of music at the same time. Scrum penalty to Australia on halfway.
Well, that 2-1 majority in penalties has been maintained right throughout this match.
And what could the scoreline have been if Meninga had taken advantage of them too, Gary?
Well, it's 5 goals he's missed, so if he'd kicked them, and really only 1 or 2 that were difficult, Alan, they'd have been at least 6 or 8 points ahead.
Well, here's a chance for Australia on the blindside wing, and it's thrown in field, and Gary Jack is going to race away from a beautiful pass from Bowstead under the posts.
Good switch of play by Mortimer Lewis out wide, and then we see the skills of the wingman, realising he can't go any further. Beautiful ball inside, and the defence nowhere to be seen. Good example of a fullback linking up with the three-quarter line. A good try.
A few people who weren't all that happy about the selection of Gary Jack as Australia's fullback, but it must be said that it's probably not the best era for fullbacks in Australia at the moment. Gary Jack's done nothing wrong. Well, that one Meninga couldn't miss, gives him 4 goals. And here's that try as the switch in play with Mortimer running it across one way, then decided to switch it back. Lewis Lyon chimed in there. Gary Jack had already handled to get it to Wayne Pearce, realised that something was on, so he immediately cut inside. Bowstead caught by the cover defence across, and Gary Jack in perfect position to take the return pass. And despite the efforts of Ellery Handley, he was always going to score, and it was just a matter of how close to the post he could get. Australia have now run away to a lead of 13 points. Exactly 6 minutes to go with Australia in possession on their own quarter line. Dowling onto Jack. We talked about the selections of some of the players, and there are also a few comments passed earlier this year about the reappointment of Frank Stanton as the Australian coach. Here's Eric Grape down the far wing. Grape sprinting away from the defence. Fullback to beat. Nice tackle. One to go for Australia. Lewis. Not a good pass. Well, I'm sure those critics of Frank Stanton won't deny him the fact that he's got probably the most successful record ever for an Australian coach. And before this match started, he had coached Australia in a total of 26 test matches, and he's won 23 of them. And the only series defeat was in France under somewhat controversial circumstances in 1978, when France won both tests, although Australia scored more tries in both matches. So it's a tremendous record for Frank Stanton, and I'm sure all his team wish him well as they continue this match to complete a 3-0 victory in the test series. Andy Goodway running it back into the Australian half. Great Britain can make the score more respectable if they score again, Mick Adams, but I think it's too late for them to win the match. They're trailing by 13 points, and even 2 converted tries is still going to leave them short of the Australian total. Well, that's Brian Noble. Penalty.
Steve Mortimer, the player, penalised here. I really don't know that this was the penalty that Great Britain wanted in an attacking position.
Well, they're not far away from the line. Holding. Big David Hobbs. Probably the biggest fellow on the field. Ball came loose and Mortimer actually dragged it loose. We're going to have a scrum.
Well, David Hobbs, the player with the ball as he gets up, and Steve Mortimer, the player who was only penalised 1 moment ago. And there it is. It's difficult to tell really who has the ball, but they're both disputing possession.
Penalty to Great Britain from the scrum feet of Steve Mortimer. 3 minutes to go in the game. Great Britain 10 metres out. Great Britain trying to get through this Australian defence in the dying minutes of the game. 2 minutes to go. Holding. Still getting the ball back. Noble clears it quickly. Here's a chance for Great Britain. Schofield and in pass. Close to the line. He's going over. He's there. He's dropped the ball over the line. Very nearly there, and he wasn't held in the tackle, went over the line and then lost it.
I'm surprised this scrum's being set now, but it certainly looked as though Drummond lost that ball over the line, which would have meant a tap from the quarter line for Australia.
Dowling had a strong game. Lewis kicking it high downfield, trying to clear the ball away from the Australian line. Mick Burke to play it. Holding. Schofield. Long one, and been dropped to the ground by Drummond to force a scrum. Well, hasn't been the best test match you've ever seen, and not many outstanding players, but I don't think there's been many better on the paddock today than Greg Conescu. He's won the scrums, he's been everywhere, tackled well. Australian scrum win. Time running out. Australia looking for more points towards the end of the game. Gary Jack juggles. The game is almost up. Australia have scored tries to Growth, Conescu and Gary Jack. Meninga kicks 4 goals from 9 attempts. Ellery Hanley, the try scorer for Great Britain. A goal to Mick Burke and a drop goal to Neil Holding. Australia led 8-7 at half-time. And they've completed this 3-0 win in the series by winning this third test by 20 points to 7. So there it is. The presentation of the Ashes to take place shortly. Australia had already retained them going into this match, leading 2-0 in the series and completing the 3-0 series win. Another magnificent triumph, and Ray Price cheered from the field. His last international, he didn't score that try that he wanted so much, but I'm sure there have been very, very few players who have ever worn an Australian jersey, or in fact a jumper for any country, who has given such great service to his team. What a fabulous farewell for Ray Price. no one, I don't think, ever really thought that Great Britain was going to take it away from Australia on this tour. But I'm still of the belief that they've done a lot better than many people expected, Mike.
They certainly have. Great Britain can't feel too badly about the whole affair. They realised that they were playing probably the strongest team in the world.
And there's a very significant gesture as Ray Price has swapped jerseys to Wayne Pearce. Wayne Pearce has now been given the number 13 jersey, and I think it's a gesture that Ray Price believes, well, here it is, you've been my understudy, now you've inherited the position in your own right, you wear the number 13, the international number for a lock forward. Well, we've got the State Minister for Sport, Mr Michael Cleary, himself a former Australian Rugby Union and Rugby League international, with the President of the Australian Rugby League, Mr Ken Arthurson, handing over the Ashes trophy to the Australian skipper, Wally Lewis. Australia 3-0 in the series.